Welcome to the 26 Keys of Community Care via Self-Care. As some of you may know, I'm a great collector of ideas. I've been doing this for many years. And if you hear some of these ideas today that seem familiar, just use them as reminders for what you are already doing and reinforcing those things you'd like to implement. Know also that these ideas are for you to share with and pass on to the people in your community and in your relationships. I want to begin with a simple practice called square breathing. You might be familiar with it. And essentially, you're just going to be following a dot with our breathing. All right. Great. So let's dive into the 26 keys, which can nurture you and cultivate compassionate relationships. Even when you feel drained and the demands of the day are right there in front of you, I want you to take time for yourself. It'll allow for you to be your best. It'll benefit the communities of which you are a part. When you are calm, caring, and compassionate, you pass this on to others in your life. And I want to encourage you to implement just one item at a time. Continue to use this practice until you feel like you have that part of your daily living. Then you can choose another. As Socrates said, better to do little well than a great deal badly. So the 26 keys, as you may have guessed, follow the 26 letters of the alphabet. A is for acceptance. It's important that we distinguish what in our lives we have control of. For those events that are out of our control, acceptance is crucial. It's okay to mourn our losses. As a matter of fact, it's beneficial to do so. Take time to grieve. A valuable exercise, which I've led in groups, including the one on conflict resolution with this conference, is called Shout Out and Cheer. Following it, participants have shared with me the real sense of comfort that they felt. The goal is that of acceptance, which is so critical. It helps us not to hang on to the negative energy. If we become stuck with anger or frustration, then we're likely to have these negative emotions surface. Acceptance is the basis of effective action. Otherwise, we can be a victim of our own minds. Now, don't confuse the calm acceptance with resignation or indifference. That's not what I mean. Acceptance means not expecting a different outcome, setting aside judgments, and avoiding comparisons. Looking to identify what is in our control is a strategy that can help us with boundaries. Now, we see this photo of the roses with the fence. That's a visible boundary. We also have to take care of invisible boundaries. Expressing a boundary such as, I'd rather not discuss politics, or I don't have time for this, or please stop teasing me. These can be challenging. Yet when we clearly state our boundaries, we're actually taking care of ourselves. Lately, many of us have been unexpectedly finding ourselves in a need to set boundaries in our homes around time and space because of working out of your home or providing a place for children to do their virtual schooling. So set boundaries as to where and when you work. Perhaps without the natural boundaries of the workplace, you blend in the work and home environment. Maybe that was happening before the pandemic, yet all of this leads to greater stress. So you can avoid this by creating a schedule for your space, your time, for these various responsibilities. Every day we have opportunities to develop connections. maybe with somebody new or a longtime friend. Either way, we can extend our sense of community towards becoming global citizens. We're not alone. Our attentiveness to our connections will strengthen us when we feel discouraged. Relying on others builds trust, affirms our interconnectedness, and lifts our spirits. Make a daily habit of reaching out to someone to share a compliment or help in some way. It's a win-win situation for you and the other. D for decompress. When we feel anxious, we can turn to our personal approach to decompress. As you can see from this photo, there's a cairn here that I built. That's one of the ways I like to decompress. It's easily said and not always done. In the midst of a conflict or feeling frustration, without practice, it takes awareness not to yield to our default and get stuck. Having ways to decompress at our fingertips makes a difference, such that we can find calm and presence of mind, so that we can proceed with our best selves. Some favorites shared in workshops include shouting in the shower, taking a walk, talking to a favorite stuffed animal. That's from a 7-year-old. Cooking, listening to music. World thought leaders recommend focusing on our breath, just as we did at the beginning. Empathy is the glue which holds our relationships and communities together. Showing empathy builds rapport. Empathy means doing our best in understanding another person's situation or perspective. Try to imagine what you'd feel if you were them. We can show compassion towards them and ourselves. We may be tempted to share our story, which relates. However, in this moment, this can take away from truly being empathetic. I'll address more about this when I speak about listening. Another benefit of empathy is improving our communication skills. I address this in my conflict resolution workshop, so I hope if you weren't able to attend, you'll check out the recording. F for forgiveness. Now you'll see from time to time there'll be a blog post reference, this one an authentic apology. So on my website, I have all sorts of articles, and again, these are available on the list. Forgiveness is known to reshape our neural circuitry and alter how we interrelate with others for the positive. I know it can be quite challenging depending on the circumstances. Releasing the anger or harmful emotions is beneficial rather than holding on to them, which then releases stress hormones in our body. Archbishop Desmond Tutu writes, "Without forgiveness, we remain tethered to the person who harmed us. We are bound with the chains of bitterness, tied together, trapped. When we forgive the person who harmed us, we take back control of our own fate and our feelings. Forgiveness, in other words, is the best form of self-interest. This is true both spiritually and scientifically. Forgiving myself is equally important and can be more challenging to do. It takes owning up to one's mistakes, understanding why they occurred, and helping to rectify the situation. Research indicates clearly that expressing gratitude is extremely beneficial in a variety of ways. An attitude of gratitude can strengthen us, especially during adverse life events. Out of the 28 benefits listed in an article from Positive Psychology, here are a few. More optimism, reduced stress, improved sleep, and reduced impatience. I first started keeping a gratitude journal about 20 years ago, encouraged by my mom, who sent me a diary of sorts so that I could write them down. Well, it fell by the wayside, as many New Year's resolutions do. About 5 years ago, facing some personal challenges, I decided to reignite this habit. And I've been regularly jotting down gratitude since then. And I've encountered some great benefits. Best of all is that during the day, when something in particular happens and I think, oh, this might be something I can write in my journal later. So it keeps me in that positive attitude. I highly recommend this practice. Hope. Hope can give us courage, strength, and boldness instead of fear. I believe that the hope in our children's future is the motivating factor for our work. Whether we are a Montessori guide, a parent, head of school, community leader. Hope in our lives is valuable. When the pandemic first settled in my life, I was surprised and inspired to hear that even though travel was quite restricted, that planning a future trip would be beneficial to my perspective. Travel posts on Pinterest have increased substantially during this time. Creating excitement for a trip can be therapeutic. It gives our brains something concrete on which to focus. I'm a great proponent of being present, and this may seem like a path in the opposite direction. However, the reality is that we have to plan our trips, and we can be present in this planning process, and it boosts our outlook. Optimism helps not only our mental health, but also our physical health. Throughout our lives, we have those individuals who influence us for good or for bad. I refer to them as influencers, not necessarily in the current context of social media. Take a moment to consider who your personal influencers are. We have a choice to continue our relationships with them or not. I want to suggest that you select your alliances that are important to you. When Warren Buffett described what makes him happy, two elements stood out. One, to do something that you're passionate about, which I believe you're all already doing so. And secondly, to surround yourself with positive people. One of the advantages of the pandemic has been the volume of free material by major thought leaders. I have taken advantage of several of these, such as Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Brene Brown, Thich Nhat Hanh. And as a side note, this whole idea of the ABCs comes from Elise Honecker-Stone, another one of my influencers. Those of you who have developed a good sense of justice want others to have their fair share as well as yourself. They look for balance in their lives, which can lead to equanimity and evenness of temper. Finding balance in our lives is important. This can be in terms of how we make decisions, how we use our time, and how we take care of ourselves and the communities of which we're a part. Let's be sure that we're balancing out our playtime and our work time. K for kindness. Now, I believe that all of us practice kindness in our lives, especially when with children, our families, and I don't think I need to elaborate on this. However, I want to encourage you to be kind to yourself. Take time each day to do something that brings you joy. It may be listening to a song, spending some quiet time observing nature, calling a friend, admiring artwork, or journal writing. It need not take long. As you take this time, be mindful of what is bringing you joy. Listening. The rewards of listening and being listened to can be felt immediately. Truly listening, though, is quite challenging. Think about what the other is saying and how they may feel, instead of planning your response. Avoid thinking of your own related story. You can reflect on any biases you hold that may interfere with your ability to follow the conversation. Feel free to ask questions, yet make sure it's for the sake of clarification and greater understanding. Avoid interruptions to make suggestions or give solutions. Well done, active listening is a gift to the other. And as a result, your modeling skillful listening will encourage this, and you too will be the beneficiary. And again, there's more on this on my presentation with the keys to conflict resolution.